While Texas is on the front lines of this fight, Indiana may be next in line.
Now at 5, meeting with Texas Democrats in Chicago. The stand Indiana Democrats are taking when it comes to redistricting.
Tracking a few storms with radar this evening and some big heat in the 7-day forecast.
Preventing violence across Marion County, the group that's offering training while working to resolve conflicts. And the biggest issues they say they see. Live from Indy, you're watching 13 News.
Tonight, state Democrats are up in Chicago meeting with other Democrats from Texas who left their state to prevent a vote on drawing new congressional district maps.
This coming together in Chicago comes nearly a week after Vice President J.D. Vance came here and made a visit to Indianapolis. And during that time, he talked with Indiana Governor Mike Braun about redistricting. Tonight, our Emily Longnecker joining us live from Chicago. She traveled up there today to catch up with the Hoosier Democrats to learn a little bit more about this interaction there. Emily.
Yeah, Ann and Felicia, several Hoosier Democrats made the 3-hour trip to Chicago today to stand here with their Texas counterparts in this park on the west side of Chicago. Both Hoosier Democrats and Texas Democrats have couched this as a fight for democracy, a fight they say they didn't start, but one they say they are not afraid to finish. Texas Democrats are headed here into their second week in the Windy City after leaving Texas to avoid a vote on changing the maps of the state's congressional districts. Now, unlike in Indiana, Texas Republicans do not have a supermajority, so at least some Democrats would need to be in Texas for a vote on redistricting. This afternoon, Indiana Democrats stood with lawmakers from Texas saying Hoosiers don't want their congressional districts redrawn either.
I represent 68,000 people, just like the rest of the representatives in Indiana. My job, my responsibility, why they put me into office is to help my constituents make their life better, do things that will help them and guide them through life. My job is not to help a guy in Washington, D.C.
And when it comes to Indiana, Governor Braun and Republican leaders haven't committed to any plans to call a special session to redraw maps of Indiana's congressional districts. That happens every 10 years after a census, but Governor Braun said the topic came up last week when Vice President J.D. Vance met with him and other Republican leaders. And Democrats say that redrawing those districts early would be like trying to rig the system. Democratic Representative Ed Delaney likened it to shoplifting congressional seats. And Democratic lawmakers, Hoosiers, say that their Texas counterparts are really standing on the front lines in this fight for democracy and standing as an example for the country. Now, being here in Chicago, that could cost these Texas lawmakers. We know the Governor Greg Abbott from Texas has threatened to arrest these lawmakers or fine them when they return. And I talked to at least one Texas lawmaker today that says, you know, they just cannot worry about that theirs is a righteous cause and that this is not just an issue for Texans, but an issue for all Americans. And Hoosier lawmakers, Democrats anyway, agreeing with them today. Ann, Felicia?
All right, Emily Longnecker reporting live for us tonight in Chicago.
Yeah, we're seeing the ripple effects out of Texas. Thank you. And the Indiana Republican Party responded to the Democrats' press conference today by posting a map of Illinois on X, formerly known as Twitter.
The caption read, "Before running off to Illinois to fearmonger about redistricting, Indiana Democrats might want to take a look at what gerrymandering actually looks like."
Well, right now, as Emily mentioned, Governor Braun and leading lawmakers here in Indiana are weighing whether to call a special session to redraw our congressional districts.
So Dustin has been covering this and he joins us here. And Dustin, we talked with the governor about this last week. We talked to him about redistricting and he said, you know, he wanted to see what Indiana lawmakers thought and if they were interested in it. Is there a majority interest in this right now?
That's the question. The White House, and certainly hope so. Remember, Vice President Vance traveled here last week to encourage the state to consider this, to help get more Republicans into Congress. But even some of the most conservative Republican lawmakers here in Indiana are saying, count me out.
Well, it doesn't make sense for Indiana.
State Representative Jim Lucas says Indiana already has a solid Republican foundation.
We have a supermajority in both House and Senate. At the State House, we have the governor's office. Every elected state position is held by Republicans. So there's no need to go back in and risk any gains that we may have, that we have made in the past decade plus, to risk picking up maybe one congressional seat.
Lucas isn't alone in publicly pushing back. Becky Cash, who represents Zionsville, responded to a constituent question on Facebook saying, "I do not support redistricting and do not know of any reason why Indiana should." Representative Daniel Lopez of Carmel posted on X, "I've heard from several folks and want to be clear on my position. I am a hard no on potential efforts to redraw electoral maps in Indiana mid-decade." And Mooresville Republican Craig Haggard told us, after speaking with his constituents, "I think we're pretty solid where we are. And right now, I don't see a push or appetite to do it."
Are you hearing from constituents about this?
Some are for, some are against. This is going to be a politically loaded statement. Some people are saying, hey, play the game that the Democrats have been playing and do it. If they were in power, they would probably do something like this. I can't argue against that. But just because somebody else might do something, or because we can do something, doesn't always mean we should.
And within the last hour, we heard from Republican Senator Spencer Deary, who is also a no. In a statement, he said, "What we are being asked to do goes far beyond the partisan map fights that happen every 10 years across the country. Rationalizing a mid-cycle redistricting by saying, well, Democrats gerrymander too, is an empty and irrelevant excuse." Now, remember, there are 70 Republicans in the House, 40 in the Senate. Our team has reached out to many of them to find out what they're hearing and what they're thinking. Of course, we'll let you know just as soon as we find out.
Yeah, but it is refreshing to have some people at least come out publicly and say, this is where I stand. I'm either for or against.
Yeah.
And that really is what the constituents need to know. I voted for you. Where do you stand?
Yep. And what do the constituents say? Yep.
Yeah, is it in sync?
Right.
Dustin, thank you so much.
Now, back to that situation in Texas, which really put this whole issue about redistricting back in the national spotlight.
The special legislative session, which allowed a vote on new congressional maps yesterday, is ending Friday, but they're expected to immediately start a new one.
And now the Democrats who left the state to block the proposal, which cannot move to the governor's desk since they aren't there, are considering their next steps and their exit strategy.
Now, we also heard from some of the Texas Democrats in Chicago today, and you can hear what they had to say, as well as watch what else the Indiana Democrats had to say during the press conference. So Emily mentioned a few minutes ago that it is on WTHR+.
If you'd like to watch that, just download the app on your TV to watch WTHR+. It's free. Our coverage continues with Emily from Chicago ahead at 6. Angela.
And Marie, not quite as hot, not quite as humid, and we've got a few storms moving across parts of central Indiana. So we'll start with live Doppler 13 radar. All of these drifting off to the south. We do have some rain in Shelbyville. We've got some rain in Liberty. This is a little outflow boundary. You might be feeling the winds kick up from Greenwood into Franklin across parts of Johnson County. We'll head west, pick up a couple of spotty showers, one pushing southeast of Cloverdale, another one pushing southeast of Jasonville, and one just south of Terre Haute. This is the type of activity, mainly south of I-70, just a few downpours and a few rumbles of thunder this evening. Otherwise, temperatures for the rest of central Indiana in the low to mid 80s under partly cloudy skies. If you're headed to the fair tomorrow, not too hot. Temperatures will be in the 80s.
Angela, thank you. Now, a very disturbing story. Tonight, a little 3-year-old girl is fighting for her life. She's right now at Riley Hospital for Children. Her dad and his girlfriend are now behind bars, and they're charged with abuse of that little girl.
Joshua Cahigas and Melly Jackson told police that she fell and hit her head. Doctors say that it's worse. Marina Silva looked into court documents and spoke with the girl's mom.
The 3-year-old was living with her dad and his girlfriend. On Thursday, police were called to the home and found the girl unresponsive. At Riley Hospital, doctors found a brain bleed, the bruises, and facial fractures. She was rushed into surgery to take out part of her skull to relieve the pressure. The girl's mom, Lexis Burnett, was called to see her daughter in the hospital.
I didn't really understand what was going on.
According to court documents, Cahigas and Jackson told police the girl fell when she picked up a 1-year-old and hit her head. The girl's father is accused of forcing her to do discipline drills like wall squats, runs, and stands on the wall. Cajigas told police he didn't know how she got the head injuries.
She's fighting for her life. She's still in critical conditions. There's still, recovery process that we have to do, but she is alive.
Burnett told 13 News she now has emergency custody of her daughter.
I want to see her recover, and I'm going to be here while she does that. And even after we leave her, I'm here.
Her mom says she'll remain at the hospital as she's hopeful that her daughter recovers. Reporting in Indianapolis, Marina Silva, 13 News.
And we want to make sure that you know there is help available if you or someone you know suspects a child is being abused or neglected. You can just call the Indiana Child Abuse and Neglect Hotline. Here's the number here on your screen, 1-800-800-5556. We have also posted it with this story on WTHR.com.
And now to the challenge of finding childcare and the importance of doing your homework.
Parents are warning other parents on social media about a Plainfield Early Learning Center. And it comes after the Indiana Department of Family and Social Services Administration found health and safety violations earlier this month, including one critical violation.
Our Ella Rhodes today looked into what that agency discovered and filed this report.
In an inspection report from August 7th, FSSA found 5 health and safety violations at Kinderare Learning Center on Edwards Drive. The first violation says caregivers weren't attentive to children. 3 violations say the director failed to report to authorities a complaint of alleged abuse. Another violation says caregivers sprayed young children's heads and faces with a hose. Staff reported one child has sensory issues and a fear of water. Kinderare tells 13 News the 2 staff members involved are out of the center on administrative leave while internal and external investigations take place. We are partnering with DCS and state licensing and will follow all guidance they provide. In addition, we are retraining staff on child care best practices. We spoke with a parent who didn't want to go on camera due to the sensitive nature of the story. She says her child was bitten more than a dozen times. She also says her 2-year-old expressed she didn't want to stay at Kinderare.
If you're caring for children, you should greet them when they walk through the door and say hello and welcome them for the day. Maybe she would have wanted to stay. And those feelings and those vibes just didn't sit well with me.
She pulled her daughter out of the daycare shortly before the August violations. We have not heard back from FSSA. In Plainfield, Ella Rhodes, 13 News.
Here on 13 News, often we're reporting on violence across the city.
And tonight we're getting a look at how the city tries to prevent conflicts from escalating. And that's why the Office of Public Health and Safety has partnered with the Center for Conflict Resolution.
Today we stopped by the center as they were training people on how to de-escalate situations and resolve conflicts. The program manager tells us they try to help in various situations, whether it's an issue between neighbors, family disputes, landlords or tenants, and more.
Most of the time when we get referrals, it's between 2 people that they don't really know one another. They don't even know. They're kind of nervous about like how to even approach the conflict, or it's gotten to the point where it's all there is conflict. And so what we do is we can try to step in, we try to intervene, and we try to give them different conflict resolution skills so that they are able to sit down, have a civil conversation, and help them resolve this issue without any violence.
The program manager tells us Metro Police will get in touch with them about issues within the community.
And she says conflicts between neighbors is the biggest thing that they see. She said they will try to step in and help, whether it is issues with parking or noise complaints, sometimes complaints like loud music or someone threatening to shoot a dog for barking a lot. We have more news ahead. Housing ICE detainees at Camp Atterbury.
The help that one group would like to offer those who may end up there is new at 5:30. But first, at 5.
And it kind of hits you like, wow, my kid could have been down there,
A truck crashed right into a family's living room, and it's caught on camera.
The questions this dad's now asking about the man under arrest. Plus, President Trump is preparing to meet with Russia's president.
Why other world leaders are concerned that this meeting could be disastrous for their countries.